You're still watching the Eastern Business Report right here on the Afia Business Morning, and I am Marvellous Apuamaga. On our discussion segment today, President Bola Tinubu has granted executive approval for the establishment of the Southeast Investment Company, Seic, to drive private capital, accelerate industrialization, and enhance competitiveness in the region. The new investment vehicle is under the Southeast Development Commission, inaugurated earlier this year. According to a statement by the President on Friday, the Seic will function as a professionally governed, private sector-led institution operating independently of annual federal budget cycles. Now, joining me on the Eastern Business Report this morning to talk about this is Professor Chiwuike Uba, a development economist. You're welcome on the program.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Yeah. Good morning. Good to have you.
Yeah.
So I'd like to get your general thoughts on the launch of the Southeast Investment Company.
Yeah, first, for me, it's a positive development. If you look at the president's remark when he purportedly gave the approval, he said part is that the investment company would be devolved from the usual government budget cycle, and is going to be privately managed, even though it's going to run more on a PPP framework. So what that means is that the Southeast will have an investment vehicle that they can use to galvanize funding for the infrastructural development of the Southeast that will be shielded from the usual bureaucracies, interferences that we have seen in the political framework of Nigeria's economic system. So for me, it's a good thing that we are having something that is shielded from the everyday political interferences. But how that plays out in the end is another discussion for another day.
All right, so when we hear 150 billion, people think it's huge. It sounds huge. The company is backed by 150 billion naira capital. How significant is that amount in practical economic terms for a region like the Southeast?
Well, first, backed, that doesn't mean the funding is even there yet. Because what it means is that, yes, the government has said we'll have such investment company that will have such capital base. 150, to answer your question very straightforwardly, 150 for development of the Southeast is very, very minimal. It's very, very minimal. If you look at the budget that was approved for the Southeast Economic Commission for 2025, it's about 220 billion naira or thereabout. Although that money is mainly for recurrent expenditure, which means to help them to set up the office, employ staff, and all that. I don't think if we want to go into, let me just use an example for a road. For any good road, the kilometer of unpaved road in the Southeast is huge. 150 billion will do, yes, it will try, but it will do little or nothing. But what I think is that you can have a 150 billion backed capital company, but that doesn't mean that the mobilization capacity of that company will be restricted to 150 billion naira, as it were. So what it means that it's like you having a company now that has a 150 billion capital shares. That does not mean that you cannot do business of 1 trillion naira and all the rest of it. But it's in case if there's any emergencies, if there are liabilities, arose as a result of what you're doing, that serves as a foundational capital for the uptake of the company. 150 is not much. Our budget, each of the cities, Enugu State had a budget of 900 billion in 2025 alone. And that is not enough to even do a lot of things in Enugu as it were. So 150 is not much, but it's a good way to start. And like I said, the Southeast Economic Investment Company is just a vehicle that will allow both private sectors to invest. They will also go to your international market for bonds and all that. So they will raise the required capital that will enable them to do what they need to do.
Since the approval of Seic, there's been talks that this is long overdue for the region. Are you of same opinion?
Being overdue, I don't know for those who are saying it's long overdue, because personally, while I commend the president for what he has done, I don't think this idea of the South is thinking that development would always come from the federal government is a good idea. We have the Southeast Governors Forum that have existed for over 16 years now. And unfortunately, even at the state level, how many of them have been able to articulate framework that will ensure regional integration and regional development? It's usually, I'm not a fan of development that is coming from outside. Any development that is coming from outside is not sustainable. So whether it's ripe or not ripe, for me, the Southeast Governors Forum or Southeast government should be the drivers of investment in Southeast. The resources are there, but unfortunately, the way we have managed our resources over the years also have not shown that we have what it takes to develop the Southeast. So, yes, the Southeast Economic Investment Company has come, but part of the fears I have also is that let it not be hijacked by the political structures within the Southeast and outside the Southwest, hence also affecting what it has been established to do. Yes, it's a good investment, but personally, I'm not very, very optimistic about how it will run.
Exactly. I was going to ask you if you see this being hijacked in the future.
Definitely. Yes,
why do you say so?
For an economist, there's what we call scenario analysis, not just about projections or modeling. As a country, we've established a lot of investment companies that never saw the light of the day, even at the regional and subnational level. We established the Sovereign Wealth Fund. I'm sure you know about the Sovereign Wealth Fund, which the federal government established, which was for the purposes of also saving some money for the rainy day. We have also set up the asset management company in this nation that are buying off liabilities for companies that took loans from banks and not rest of it all. What you've witnessed also is that most of these loans that the Asset Management Corporation have written off, they let go of the corporates, those that borrowed those loans, who may have also used such funds to do wasteful things. And government buy up those loans and all the rest and let go of such persons. And eventually, even the businesses that were bought over are given to those who may not have the requisite technical expertise to run those businesses. And they run it aground. So in the end, you find out that government wasted funds, individuals hijack the funds, and in the end, it keeps being the same circle that we want to save from having a company that is devoid or shielded from the normal day bureaucratic political interferences taking place. And the other thing also, I'm thinking also that may happen for the Southeast. I'm sorry I'm saying it's on air. I don't see that harmony between the Southeast governors, not just from the current administration. That is what has happened over time, where they meet, they'll come up to issue political statements that never saw the light of the day. So what will happen also, because there are no coherence or hegemony between all them, there will be this drag of where investments will be cited, who will do that. And that can affect the trust of the diaspora and investors in the region and those who might want to put in their capital into the Southeast Development, Southeast Investment Company, as it were. So those are my fears, given antecedents. And if we can't agree on where projects will be cited and we begin to compete, it has to be in Enugu, it has to be in Abuja, that can also stall the flow of activities within the investment company and what they will do as well. And if there's that kind of log and lag in investment, investors will withdraw. And that's on technical component of it. Now, on the pure political security component of it, which takes me back to the regional integration component of it that has happened within the Southeast. Most of Southeastern states are struggling with insecurity. And unfortunately, most of the government within the Southeast has been handling it per state in silos. So what it means is that if state A is succeeding in winning people addressing the insecurity in the area, most of the people causing insecurity in this state will move to the other states within the region as well. But if they are working in unity, they will work as a united front to weed the states or the region from the elements that are causing insecurity, now making the place better. And no investment can thrive in an insecure environment. This is not just about Enugu, about Anambra. We're looking at the Southeast as a whole, as a region. So even if we are as strong as the weakest link within us. So even if there's security in Enugu, there's no security in Anambra, investors will also not want to invest. And that will also mean that the investment company will have problem mobilizing resources that are required to make the investments in the Southeast.
Looking at all of these things you said, what should the commission do differently this time to avoid these things from happening?
Now, we'll go for the commission, then we'll come back to the investment company. One of the things I thought would have happened with the Southeast Development Commission would have been started to do proper stakeholders consultation. And unfortunately, that is not happening. What we are seeing is still the elitist issue, which is also part of the problem that the Southeast Investment Company may face, which is what I call the elitist capture. If you want to redevelopment in the Southeast, you must carry everybody along from the grassroots and all that. So overall, I would have expected the Southeast Development Commission by now, while they are doing the macroeconomic consultation at that level, they would have started reaching out to the grassroots to let them know the new things that are coming and ask them what actually are their needs, what they want to do. I had expected also the Southeast Development Commission to begin to consult the academia, the professional bodies within the region and all that to get their input into what is happening. But what has happened is that they recognize those that they believed have made it somewhere, and they brought them into advisory committees that are using it. So it still becomes the elitist thing, the we versus them kind of thing. And that is what has also affected the development in the Southeast, where the governors believe they are the emperors who have all the knowledge. They decide what they do, what they want to do, and they begin to invest without trying to find out what are the actual needs of the people. And when you do these things without consulting the people, what it means that people become aloof. And because they're not part of it also, and it's not something they value, they might become instruments that begin to destroy such things. And I see that being replicated in the currently being developed Southeast Development Commission. And do not forget that Southeast Investment Company is a subsidiary of the Southeast Development Commission. And now if the head is not right, then the dampers will also have a problem. So I think there's a need to sit back and ask ourselves the hard questions. And only when we have done that, we'll be able to provide the required answers that will enable us to do the right thing. So I repeat also, while I thank the President for the establishment or for the approval for the establishment of the Southeast Investment Company, I believe it's something that should also come from within. We should take the lead. Otherwise, it's like the way we are now. If I keep forcing things on you, you may say thank you, but you're not happy. You may not like that, and you destroy the thing. And that is what I'm seeing going to happen if we don't address the issues.
You know, we're comparing Seic to something that looks like the ENDC, the old Eastern Nigeria Development Corporation.
Yes.
And we saw what was achieved at that time.
Yes.
Do you see Seic recreating that kind of success in today's Nigeria? If
the first things are done first, if the right things are done rightly, that can be done. And that takes me to the issue I raised earlier on. Eastern Nigeria Development Corporation was our own. It was our own. It wasn't from above. It wasn't a top-down approach investment company. It was a company that every subsidiary or constituent governments and all that agreed to come in together to make investment, like they have the Odua Investment Company, where the southern states, all of them came together and agreed that because we want this thing to happen, we'll make contributions. The same thing that has happened with our own Ebubago and our Matekon. So until the people who should own this thing agree that it is their own and begin to make the right investments and commitments into that project, it cannot achieve the kind of results that it would. So while the president has agreed, I will expect the Southeast Development Commission to come back home before the actual implementation or establishment of this thing, to go around the Southeast governments or governors, as it were, including the States House of Assembly. We know that the States House of Assembly, most of them are subsidiaries of the executive. But the issue is that you also need to make such consultations so that it becomes that these are the things that everybody has signed on to, including the traditional institutions, and in the Southeast, work on town unions. Also, you consult the town unions as well, and so that it becomes our thing. Not we begin to see it, that is something the president from Abuja has foisted upon us. Because when such mindsets begins to weigh down, people will start seeing it as that there is a hidden agenda. And as long as people begin to see there is a hidden agenda, the thing will lose its credibility. And if it loses its credibility, the main objects of the proposed Southeast Investment Commission will die, because the government might not have the capacity to make the right investments or funding into that company. You need the private sector. You need the diasporans. You need Ndi and everybody to be part of that process for it to thrive. And I mean to say again, if the security in the Southeast is not being tackled the way it should tackle, no right-thinking person will want to make huge investments in the region where you are not sure of the security of your life and property.
Just to digress a little, the Eastern Nigeria Development Corporation, which is the ENDC, ended after the war.
Yes.
Why do you think something like that wasn't created again up to now? That's the federal government brought about Seic. Let
me just share, even though you say let's digress, and it's important that digression is made. I worked with an organization that was named African Institute for Applied Economics. Now it is African Heritage Institution. At a time, we tried to recreate or establish the Southeast Development Commission. It went through the processes. We had consulted everybody, the Igbos in diaspora and everybody, and a document was developed. And part of the things that document had also was the Southeast Investment Commission eventually. That document was taken to the whole Southeast governors to sign. Some signed, some didn't sign. Some houses of assembly signed, some didn't sign. Others were looking, this idea. Some states feel that the Southeast government is trying to also recreate the imbalance that existed, where some states feel they are more superior to the other. So that kind of mindset came in, and that was what led to the death of that vision. So that is part of the reason why we have not been able to recreate the ENDC after the war.
So you're saying we are not united?
We are not united. Yes, we are not. How has the Southeast Governors Forum fared? When they meet, how many of them attend those meetings? When there's an issue in the Southeast, how many times have they spoken with one voice? So there's this internal competition. I don't want to use it as being, there's an internal competition between them. Even when the idea of going to regional government was mooted earlier on during the last constitutional review at the national level, I recall a state that said that no, they won't agree for regional governments anymore, because that over time, there was a state they mentioned, we are here, so there are some things I won't say, that saw them as the third world people. And now they've gotten their independence by having their own state, and you want to bring everybody together again so that they won't have their voice heard again. So there's that fear, within and among the Southeast states. The governors also, there are some governors that see themselves as more elitist than others. So they fail to sit down at a place to discuss issues concerning the asset and reach. How many of them can put funds together? Before this present administration, during the Hemeroke era, and even Ugwa and them that left, they agreed to do a ring road within the Southeast. They've come up with very lofty ideas on what they would do at the Southeast. But how many of them have the conscience or the impetus to put funds on the ground for the commencement of such projects? So there's competition, there's rivalry, there's disunity among themselves. And that is what I might play in when these things happen. In the appointments, it's happened. Even when there's a national appointment for institution that relates the Southeast, you see how they begin to fight among themselves from where the candidate will come and all the rest of it. And sometimes to lose such opportunities, the government might now go to somewhere else to appoint somebody to head such institutions, because the Southeast governments are, fail to agree on who will produce the candidates.
But you are saying we are not united as a people. The ENDC worked out.
Yes.
The corporation worked out, and
Yes.
he achieved a lot of things.
Yes.
What's the difference between then and now?
What is different between then and now is because Igbos, we saw ourselves as ourselves.
Okay.
A lot has changed about us. There's what I call the Okurism. In the past, Igbos, where we are called the Okuru is that we walk in silence. You just see what we have done. And when Igbo, for Igbo, when but now, even when you go outside and speak Igbo to a fellow Igbo man, he'll start blowing grammar and tell you want to use Igbo to make him do what he wouldn't want to do. That wasn't what it is before. And before we said Umejiana Igbobi, which means the kidney cannot kill the heart. But now kidneys kill the heart. The liver kills the heart within the Igbos. So the kind of unity, brotherhood that we experienced those days are no longer here. Now, what we have seen is that people want to stand tall alone and have those that will be worshiping them. Unlike before, when an Igbo man is rising, he's drawing the other. And which is why we had the apprentice system those days. Because you want your brother to grow as you are rising. Now, that is not the situation. Now, I want to be seen as the best, the hardest, the strongest, while others are the weaklings, so that I can subdue them. So we need a reorientation, both from the grassroots to the governance level. Before, I can stand and say that you are not doing the right things, and you listen. Now, if I say it, there are some things I saw in this studio about the government now. Before I leave here, they will wait for me and lock me up. It wasn't happening those days. They saw those kinds of commentaries as contributions to the success and development of the region. Now, such comments are seen as attacking the government and the person that is sitting on that government. And some of us have resorted to sitting on the back bench without saying anything because I have young children I need to train as well. So until we become very united and see the development of Southeast as our collective responsibility, what we are planning to do may have issues. I'm not saying it's going to fail, but I'm just drawing the weak points that will make it not to achieve its desired. And also, it's coming from outside, not that we're the ones who are engineering it.
All right, thank you so much, Prof, for that. What three things must be done immediately to make sure that Seic do not just become another government white elephant?
Number one, we need proper consultations, inclusive consultations, both at the micro and the macro level. Macro at the governmental level, at the 3 tiers, both at the executive level, the legislative level, and the judicial level. Then also at the vertical level, we need to go down to the grassroots, town unions and all that, and let them know what, because there are people who will invest in that company. And until they understand what you want to do, they won't do that investment. Because whether you like it or not, you might be hoping you get bigger investment from African Development Bank and all that. Yes, they will invest, but what about interest rate? But if you mobilize resources within us and they invest, you have more than enough capital to do that. Imo State did that during some back when the Imo State airport was built by the Imo people. People were contributing 1 kobo, 10 kobo, and all that. Because also they believe in the government that is very sincere. So that needs to happen, consultation. We should avoid what I call the dada and the dead. That means where you decide, you announce, and you begin to defend it, and all the rest of it. We need to avoid that and do real, inclusive, total public consultation. That needs to happen. The second thing that needs to happen also is that the Southeast Development Commission on its own must also consult, again, by people to identify what projects, bankable projects, and pay projects that people need. Because only when people say these are what they need, they will be able to pay for such projects. Because if you take a loan to do a project, that project should be able to repay itself. So if you do projects that people are not in need of, they will abandon it, so you won't be able to recoup the funding. So that needs to happen as well. Then the last, but not the least, because this is coming from their side, we also need to do proper sensitization to let our people know that this is not a hidden agenda by anybody. That is for the collective well-being of Ndibo and the Southeast. Only when that is done, we'll begin to strengthen the systems and the structures. Because the systems and the structures are just the next level. If you have the systems and the structures and the foundational things are not done right, the systems and structures will collapse. But when we see it as our own, and we are part of it. If you put the systems and the structures, people will make the systems work. That is why even when a governor is doing a project and he announces that we are building a 10-kilometer road from Abapa to Emene, that the road, the width is 100 km, and everybody knows the thickness. And we agree that's what you see, that the citizens will be the one that will be going to supervise the contractor to make sure that what has been published and what has been built. But when they are not aware, they believe they are not part of the process. The contractor can't do anything without their knowledge and without their interest. So we need to do the foundational things first. Those 3 foundational things need to happen. Then the systems and structures will come in place. Then we'll begin to talk about the sustainability of the Seic.
Thank you, Professor Chiwuike, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's all we can take on the Eastern Business Report. Till I see you at 10 a.m. tomorrow for another edition of the Business Morning. I am Marvellous Apuamaga, saying have a profitable business day. And of course, up next is Afia.
Okay.